So there are questions that we can apply to the Socratic method which support the process of reflection for the practitioner, and this whole process helps the reflective practitioner develop their identity as a teacher. And we've seen how questions can be applied to different levels of cognition, different levels of thinking, from lower order to higher order. And in terms of these questions, there are very different question types at each level that we need to be thinking about asking. And these question types again provide a stronger structure for the reflective practitioner to use when they're applying the Socratic method. Questions of purpose force the reflective practitioner to look at a situation critically and try to define the situation as clearly as possible. Questions of information require the reflective practitioner to look for evidences, look for data, look for information in the situation in order to elicit understanding of the experience. Questions of interpretation force the reflective practitioner to take the information and begin to make meaning from that information, to interpret, to analyze and understand the situation from different viewpoints. Questions of assumption force us as reflective practitioners to look at the information, understand the information, and then to reflect internally, to think about ourselves, about how we're examining the information and what assumptions we have which are affecting our interpretation. Questions of implication mean that the reflective practitioner needs to follow where the information is leading and begin to predict outcomes, predict conclusions from the experience. Questions of point of view are about the reflective practitioner examining their own concepts and their own frames for understanding in relation to experiences, so that the reflective practitioner is not removed from the process of reflection or thinking or the experience itself, but understand the connections and the interrelationships. Questions of relevance force us to make decisions about our thinking and about the evidence that we're using from situations, so that we can make better decisions about the questions that we're forming and the way we're perceiving a situation. Questions of accuracy are focused on helping the reflective practitioner see reality. The questions that we're asking are about understanding the truth of a situation rather than allowing ourselves to remain blind to a situation. Questions of precision force the reflective practitioner to be accurate about the questions which are being asked. Are the questions giving in sufficient detail, and are they significant enough to gather the information that we need? Questions of consistency are forcing the reflective practitioner to consider data, information over time, to see if the information is consistent, to see if contradictions occur. Contradictions can help us reframe the questions to look more deeply. Questions of logic help the reflective practitioner consider the situation as a whole and consider how the questions connect with one another in a sequential and logical way, leading the teacher from a starting point to a concluding point in the process of reflection. All of these question types come together in a meaningful whole for the reflective practitioner, making sense, helping the reflective practitioner make sense of a situation, moving through levels of thinking from lower order to higher order.